gardened, and we had your traditional garden where each row was one row of one type of plant. So like this row we're looking at, this is cauliflower. And we grew quite a bit in our garden. And for years, I grew my garden just like this, one row, one type of plant. But I've always been obsessed with books, and I used to hit up the bookstores and Goodwills, anywhere like that, and I would just buy all the gardening books, and I read them like crazy. My library is insane. And then along came YouTube, and people were on, and I was like, okay, I'm seeing these ideas, and I'm like, these are amazing. So instead of gardening where one row is one crop, what about this row? Now, minus the strawberry back in the corner, that's a volunteer. Minus that volunteer strawberry back there in the corner, that row is also cauliflower, like this row here, cauliflower. This row also has cauliflower, but it also has green onions and it has beets. So, and then of course the volunteer strawberry. So in one row, I can grow one crop, or I can take that same soil that I've been amending, that I have improved over the years, and I can put it to work even harder, growing multiple crops. Now, I don't just throw my crops in willy-nilly. I have charts, I have books, I've got all this information on what are called companion plants. So I looked up with the cauliflower. I said, all right, what can I grow safely with cauliflower? Thankfully, strawberries on the list. But, and I wanted plants. Now, the strawberry is going to be a problem. It's going to have to be transplanted because I need plants that I can have covered underneath cover, because cauliflower is a plant that is absolutely loved by our white moth, and the caterpillars will just eat the entire plant to nothing. And there's also other pain in the rear end pests that I'll cover these rows with a garden fabric. So that means I can't have anything underneath there that's going to need a pollinator to, pollinate a blossom and create a fruit. All right, so what do I companion plant with this? And that's why I chose onions and beets. They don't need to be pollinated at all, and they can be underneath the cover, and they'll do just fine. So in your garden space, consider, instead of growing just one crop in your soil that you've taken all that time to build up and everything, why not do a little bit more? And another thing, you can look up, besides companion plants, you can look up beneficial plants. Like when it comes to a plant that's beneficial, brings good things and wards away pests for cauliflower, it would be thyme and sage. Problem is they're going to need some pollinators. But my idea is, I've got this other space here in my garden. Why don't I put a thyme or a sage in a corner or an end row, places like that? And intermingle them with other plants. So anyway, what I'm trying to get at is, if you've got this amount of space, no matter what it is, even if you're growing in a pot, I have figured out how to companion plant in pots, and I'll show you guys that. But use your space to your absolute best of your ability. I can grow one crop, that's it. Or in that same amount of space, you guys, look at how much food I'm going to be growing for my family. And that brings me to one other thing, cluster planting. Now, my green onions, they're planted on their own, one each. And the cauliflower is planted one per hole, except for, like over here, there's a couple. I just didn't want to risk breaking them apart, so they'll grow fine just together. They'll grow fine. But anyway, my beets, I don't do them in your typical line, like 3 inches apart or whatever the heck it says to do. Mine are about 6 to 8 inches apart, and they're in clusters of about 3 to 4 beets per cluster. And those beets will naturally push each other apart. And they won't hinder the growth. And actually, I've had the best beet growth. I also do it with radishes now, bulb onions. I do it with my bulb onions, and the growth is phenomenal. So that's another thing you can look into is, cluster planting. So there you go, guys. There's some gardening tips. In your space you've got, grow wiser. Look in companion plants and look into cluster planting, things like that. All right, you guys, happy gardening.